Minority Leader, you're out of order. We debate, we agree, or we drop it. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Majority Leader. I'll come to you, Honorable Otiende, member for Ariada.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is indeed true what the Honorable Opio and I says, that there is a case in court, because it is a public domain. And everybody who follows what is going on in the courts would know there is a case in court. And I'm glad the purported paper that he has tabled, as my whip says, the last directive is that a conservatory order is hereby issued restraining the respondents from deploying police officers to Haiti or any other country until 24th October 2023. And I believe today is the 16th, if I'm not wrong, of November. He purports those orders to have been extended. I would first have wanted to see that particular extension, which has not been tabled. Therefore, this particular piece of paper seems to have lapsed. Number two, Honorable Speaker, for all I know, the matter in court did not in any way restrain or give orders against the National Assembly carrying out our constitutional mandates to debate and approve, because the National Assembly or Parliament, in line with the Constitution, does not deploy officers. What we do is to consider such a motion for approval for the deployment of those officers. It is other agencies who then are restrained from deploying, not the National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, my third point is that the Honorable Opio has been here long enough, as long as I've been here. And he knows from the 11th Parliament, under Speaker Muturi, there is a retinue of precedents on what the courts can and cannot injunct Parliament from doing. And part of that, Honorable Speaker, is that the court cannot injunct Parliament from doing what is constitutionally the Parliament's mandate. And the courts, Honorable Speaker, and my good brother Opio knows it, because he has been here. And I know this is very good politics for those in the minority, but it is politics in the wrong theater. I would advise them to play it in the courts or in rallies, but not here, Honorable Speaker, because we cannot be stopped from doing what we ought to do. And the precedence that was set by Speaker Muturi is that the courts must wait for Parliament to do its work, then proceed after that. Honorable Speaker, if you also look at our Standing Order 89.5, it says that notwithstanding this standing order on matters sub judice, as Honorable Pio says, because that is the article he referred to in speaking about matters sub judice. And 89.5 says that notwithstanding this standing order that speaks about sub judice matters, the Speaker may allow reference to any matter before the House or a committee. Therefore, our own standing orders do not stop us from discussing matters, Honorable Speaker. You may allow people to even make reference without going into the facts that are being prosecuted before the courts, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I humbly submit before you, Honorable Speaker, that this matter and this motion is, one, rightly before the House. Two, there is absolutely nothing sub judice in the House debating and approving, if the House agrees with the motion, approving the deployment of our officers to Haiti. Honorable Speaker, a lot of work has gone into this work, this committee's work, and the Honorable Tongo from the report yesterday, members will be able to see, including extensive public participation. Part of the matters that are being argued are issues to do with whether or not there has been public participation. That is not a matter for us to determine here. Let us leave it to the courts. They will fight with those they are fighting with the courts. For us, let us carry out our constitutional mandate to consider what is before the House today without any reference to the particular facts of the case that is in court, Honorable Speaker. But lastly, I want to agree with the Honorable Osoro that it behoves on the leader of minority not to table a piece of paper of a defunct court order, but he should also have tabled what he purports to have been an extension, because that is it is him who is purporting there was an extension. Nobody is aware, and the burden of proof was on him, not on anybody else. And he cannot refer to online. He's telling it is online, anybody can Google. There are a lot of hackers online and fake news. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Otiende, member for Rarieda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to clearly support the point of order by the minority leader. And I really want us to address this as a house, not as a partisan house, because these matters have consequences in terms of precedence. First of all, Madam Speaker, Standing Order 89 is clear as read by Honorable Andai, and 89.2 restricts discussion of active civil matters. It goes further in C to say that civil proceedings shall be deemed to be active when arrangements for hearings such as setting down a case for trial have been made until the proceedings are ended by judgment or discontinuance. Until they are ended by judgment or discontinuance. It is clear, Madam Speaker, that the case quoted, E389 of 23, is active, has been set down, it has not been ended by discontinuance or judgment. So it falls exactly on all fours under Standing Order 89. Madam Speaker, all the sections of all the articles of the Constitution quoted are true. But despite those provisions, in our wisdom as a house, we established the standing orders and included Standing Order 89. If it were to be possible, that there are certain matters that we are willing to discuss despite them being sub judice, nothing would have been easier than to state it on the face of the standing order. Madam Speaker, it is not true that the orders read only stop deployment of the police. To the extent that any court order stops deployment, it stops all the processes that lead to that. And one of those processes is bringing that motion in the National Assembly, and the National Assembly either passing or rejecting it. It means automatically that all these processes must be held in abeyance. Is it true, as Honorable Osoro says, that we are not party to the proceedings? Yes, we may or we may not be. But whenever we learn of any matter that concerns us, and we want to nip it in the bud or fast track it, we usually join the proceedings. So not being part of the proceedings is neither here nor there. Court orders such as this bind everyone, whether you are part of the proceedings or not. And Honorable Osoro knows that because he's a lawyer. Madam Speaker, the principle that sometimes it can be convenient to follow court orders and sometimes it can be inconvenient to follow court orders is one that makes us a laughing stock. Madam Speaker, only recently, the leader of minority sought to replace the deputy chief whip of the Azimio party. Someone else other than the concerned member went to court, and like in this case, we were not party. But when the court stops the process, the speaker held that in abeyance for months until finally that matter was disposed of. How is that matter different from this? How do students, how do Kenyans looking at us try to understand Parliament when we apply differential standards? We become a laughingstock. I think, Madam Speaker, it is unfortunate that sometimes we can conveniently think that we can ignore court orders and sometimes we cannot. In fact, in E389, which has been tabled before you, Madam Speaker, the Speaker of the National Assembly is a party. Whether the speaker has chosen to appear or not is a different matter. And it does not make the orders not see. Lastly, Madam Speaker, the leader of majority says that we can only see what has been brought before us. You know, leader of majority, one day, when you become a lawyer, as I'm sure you will, or you will learn that only justice is blind. Justice is said to be blind, but any determinative authority must always take notice of what's happening aside. In the judiciary, we say judicial notice. Even in this parliament, if today we are sitting here and we learn, even on your SMS, that something has happened, which is a national crisis, we will take parliamentary notice of it. You cannot say that you cannot take parliamentary notice of what's in public notoriety, and we know it. Madam Speaker, I think that to avoid this selective amnesia by my brothers and to maintain the dignity of this House, this debate should be held in abeyance, and if the parliament wants to be a party, it should apply to be a party. Once it's determined, then we can come back to debate it. I so submit, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
What's your point of order? Because we need to bring this to a close, I'll pronounce myself on it.
Honorable Speaker, you know, Senior Counsel Otiende Omolo referred to me and said that when I become a liar, and I have no intention ever of becoming a liar. I have no such intentions of ever becoming a liar. I don't know if he said a lawyer or a liar, because, you know, from where Honorable Otiende comes from, you can never distinguish when someone is talking about lawyers and liars. And there's a famous movie, Honorable Speaker, called Liar Liar, that was about lawyers. So I have no intention, Honorable Speaker, for the record, to become a liar, nor do I intend to become a lawyer. But Honorable Speaker, I think I have taken judicial and parliamentary notice of the court orders, Honorable Speaker. But the point I had made was that, one, there is no injunctive order against Parliament. The injunctive order is on those who are charged with the responsibility of deployment. And the court order dated 24th October or 23rd October is quite clear that those who deploy are the ones who are debarred from deployment. Parliament, Honorable Speaker, does not and has no capacity to deploy anybody other than deploying the Honorable Otiende Omolo on a trip to Rarieda, or deploy him on a trip to Mombasa, or a trip to Turkey for other things, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, having listened to the various members, I think the two matters that are in contention is the interpretation of Standing Order 89, which talks about that no matter shall be discussed if a matter is sub judice. When a matter is sub judice, it doesn't mean just that by the mere fact that the matter has been filed makes it sub judice. Sub judice is when you discuss the merits and demerits of the case before the court. That is not what is happening here in the House. The House is just charged with the responsibility as set out in Article 247 and 8 of our Constitution, which says that the Council may, with the approval of Parliament, deploy national forces outside Kenya for regional or international peace support operations or for other support operations, and approve the deployment of foreign forces in Kenya. So Parliament, the National Assembly here is not being asked to approve, to deploy the forces. They are just being asked to approve. In any case, the matter raised by the leader of minority is premature because Parliament has not yet approved the deployment. The matter has just been tabled, or is going to be tabled before Parliament for approval. Even then, never mind the fact that that court order has not been served upon the Speaker, and in order to authenticate service, usually the order has to be directed to the Speaker and the National Assembly, and it must be, and the service of that must be done. It must be authenticated, signed, and the name of the process server indicated. It cannot be a member of this house acting as a process server while the house is in plenary. And if the court order quoted by the leader of minority is to be believed, it says, as he read, that whatever authority has been restrained from deploying the police to Haiti. The National Assembly has no such power of deploying any foreign sources. All it has to do is to approve the request for deployment by the Security Council. And therefore, I will therefore, with all that said, I will exercise the powers of the Speaker under Article or Standing Order 89.5, which says, notwithstanding this standing order, the Speaker may allow the reference to any matter before the House or a committee. So we shall proceed. Honorable Member for Narok West, Honorable Tongoya. You're making a point of order against my ruling. That is not in order. So let's wait for the matter to proceed, because now it's closed. Then you can raise it at debate. Honorable Sunguli, you have an opportunity at debate. There is nothing before the House as we speak. Proceed.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for that Solomonic ruling. Madam Speaker, where is that? The multinational, taking into consideration.
Proceed to move.
Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, sorry, number 9. Madam Speaker, I beg to move the motion on the report on the multinational security support mission to the Republic of Haiti, that taking into consideration the recommendation of the Joint Committee of the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security and the Senate Standing Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations in its report on the request regarding the deployment of the officers of the National Police Service to the multinational security support mission to Haiti, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 15th November 2023, and pursuant to the provision of Article 248A, this House approves the deployment of officers of the National Police Service to the multinational security support mission to Haiti.
You have a seconder?
I ask Dido Raso to second.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to second. And I want to associate myself
Thank you. Honorable members, I now propose the question. Let me propose the question, then I'll give you a chance. Honorable members, I now propose the question that, taking into consideration the recommendations of the Joint Committee of the National Assembly, Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security, and the Senate Standing Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations, in its report on the request regarding the deployment of officers of the National Police Service to the multinational security support mission to Haiti, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 15th November 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 248A, this House approves the deployment of the officers of the National Police Service to the multinational security support mission to Haiti. Yes, your point of order, Honorable Van Dyke. You want to contribute? Okay, Honorable Otiende, you have a point of order? Okay.
Madam Speaker,
And Sugulu, you can now give your point of order.
Madam
If
Speaker,
you have any, but let's wait.
Madam Speaker, thank you for your ruling. As we are guided by the House, we must accept whether we agree or not. But given your ruling, Madam Speaker, you have clearly guided that under Standing Order 89, what is to be avoided is discussing the merits or demerits of the matter in court. And I'm accordingly guided. Madam Speaker, looking at the report that has just been tabled as a motion, it contains matters that discuss merit and demerit. Could Madam Speaker guide us which part of the report, therefore, we can refer to as we are debating this particular motion? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Omolo Otiende, you're a senior counsel, as senior as myself. You know very well that should we delve into the issue of the merits and demerits, then it is the court that shall reprimand us, not you. So you're not the sitting judge in this matter. Yeah, neither are you a counsel in the case. Thank you. Honorable Sunkuli, your point of order now
Madam
is
Speaker,
mature
today
enough.
you are not very kind to me, but I accept. Now, I'm asking, unfortunately, my point of order is more or less the same as Honorable Otiende's, but to put it in my different language, I personally respect your ruling, but could you give further guidance, Madam Speaker, on the merits of the case, the question of the merits of the case? Because if the rule is against the merits, I think it would be good for members not to delve into the merits of the matter. So could you give us guidance on what the merits of the case are?
Okay, Honorable Sunkuli, you missed an important part of my ruling. I said that this House has not been served with a court order, and therefore we cannot know what the order directed. When that comes, there shall be sufficient time to do that. But for now, we are proceeding as usual with the matter. So, Honorable Ruku, what's your point of order?
Madam Speaker, I listened carefully to the chairman of Joint Committee on National Assembly, and I didn't hear him moving the motion. I don't know whether this motion is proper on the floor of the House or not. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yeah, he moved the motion because he moved the motion as indicated in the order paper. Unless you wanted him to go further and make an explanation, which is optional. Yes, Leader of Minority.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. And I wish to now contribute to this motion following your ruling and guidance. Madam Speaker, I want to start on the premise that the National Police Service does not fall within the ambit of what is provided for under Article 240, sub-Article 8 of the Constitution. And I'll explain why. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Article 240.
Honorable Tongoya and Leader of Majority,
I'm addressing very weighty issues that will require that people listen. Honorable members, if you may listen to me.
Okay, Honorable Leader of Minority, start again because I didn't hear you.
Yes, I was saying that Article 248, Article 240, sub-Article 8, that we seem to be hiding behind in purporting to process this deployment of the police service to Haiti simply talks about deployment of national forces outside Kenya. Outside Kenya, national forces. Madam Speaker, If you go to Article 241, Article 241 of the Constitution, you will find that there are established the Kenya Defense Forces. Article 241 of the Constitution provides for the establishment of the Kenya Defense Forces. And it goes further to list those forces as consisting of the Kenya Army, the Kenya Air Force, the Kenya Navy, and basically those three. It simply talks of the three arms of the Kenya Defense Forces as what constitute the defense forces. Nothing could have been easier if the drafters of this constitution had intended to include the National Police Service as part of the forces. To say so explicitly under Article 240, Sub-Article 8 of the Constitution. Madam Speaker, we cannot afford to do what we are trying to do currently, of circumventing the Constitution and the law. In fact, the National Police Service, as established under Article 243 and 245 of the Constitution, is under the command of the Inspector General of Police. It is not under the command of the President or any other person. The Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces is not the commander of the National Police Service. That is my submission. And you can challenge me. So it was not the intention of the makers of our Constitution. And Honorable Tinda Molo is here. He will help us, because he was a member of the committee of experts that drafted our Constitution. It was not the intention of the draft of the Constitution, nor was it the intention of Kenyans when they promulgated this Constitution.
So you seem to have a point of order?
Yes.
Okay, you'll come after leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. You know, the leader of minority has asked us to challenge him. And Honorable Speaker, is also good to state matters of fact in line with our standing orders. Honorable Speaker, the leader of minority is clearly misreading and misinterpreting the Constitution, because if you read Article 248 of the Constitution that provides that the National Security Council, with the approval of Parliament, which is the basis of this motion, Honorable Speaker, may deploy the national forces of Kenya for regional and international peace support operations or other support operations. Honorable Speaker, if you read Article 242, the Constitution of the Security Council, the Council consists of, amongst others, and I'll go straight to I, the Inspector General of the National Police Service. And therefore, you cannot argue that the National Security Council, or that is involved with the deployment of forces and request with the approval of Parliament, does not constitute the National Police Service, because it is right there in the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, 242H, I, Honorable Speaker, including the National Intelligence Service, for that matter. So even if you are to deploy National Intelligence Service officers, that is part of the National Security Council.
Speaker, how I wish my colleague did not interrupt me, because he has clearly not added any value to the debate.
He has assisted you.
Because if you look at the composition of the National Security Council, it also has civilians in it, including the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs. So are you saying Foreign Affairs staff are members of the Defense Forces? Are you saying we can deploy Foreign Affairs staffers, Ministry of Foreign Affairs staffers to Haiti to maintain security? It doesn't add, it doesn't follow. It doesn't matter who is a member of the National Security Council. What is important is what constitutes
a point of order. I'll still give you time, don't worry. You have sufficient time, and we shall add you a minute or so for the interruption. Honorable Russo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand under Standing Order number 91. I think from the floor of this House, the leader of minority should not mislead the nation and this house. For him to stand there and purport that the president is not the commander of the National Police Service, then the word commander-in-chief simply means that all those who are armed, whether the Kenya Defense Forces, the National Police Service, the Prison Service, actually come under the President of the Republic of Kenya. That is what he has been given, or she, by the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, it is okay for the leader of minority to make a statement, but let him not be allowed to mislead the House and the nation. Thank you.
Proceed. Now you have been properly guided.
Anyway, you know, in this world, wonders will never cease. You know, the Constitution is so clear. I don't want to belabor the point, really, because I think even my colleagues on the other side are clearly agreeing with me, even though they may not say so loudly. The Constitution is so clear. But that aside, having addressed myself to the unconstitutionality of this move, I want now go to the merit. Even assuming that Kenya, that this house could actually approve the National Police Service to go to Haiti. If you go to National Police Service Act, the National Police Service Act, Section 108, Section 108 of the National Police Service Act, where in certain special circumstances, let me just go to the specific section. Section 1081. Yes. 1081 of the National Police Service Act. And it provides as follows. Madam Speaker, the President may, on the application of the government of a reciprocating country, the government of a reciprocating country, okay, order such number of police officers as the President may think fit to proceed to that country for service therein for the purpose of assisting the police service of that country in a temporary emergency. Madam Speaker, what is the definition of a reciprocating country? Before you even go to the definition of a reciprocating country, the country in question must be having a functioning government. My submission is that the Republic of Haiti, as we speak currently, has got no functioning government. And therefore, the question of reciprocating or otherwise can't arise. But even more importantly, this requisition, this request for the deployment of Kenya Police Service officers to Haiti, who is the originator? Where did it come from? Did it come from Haiti? And if it came from Haiti, from who in Haiti? Which government in Haiti? Which government, as we speak, is in charge of the Republic of Haiti? Because as a country, as a parliament that represents the people of Kenya, we have to ask these questions. We have to ask these questions because the public will ask us even tougher questions if something goes wrong in Haiti. So we must ask these questions. Which government in Haiti made the requisition for Kenya police officers to go to Haiti? If it is not the government of Haiti, therefore, who then asked for our police officers to go to Haiti? Is it the UN? I'm hearing it's the UN from somebody shouting across the island.
What's your point of order, Honorable Kainan? Your debate must be very exciting. You have many points of order. You should appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam.
Proceed, Honorable Kainan.
Madam Speaker, is it in order for the Honorable Wandai to mislead Kenyans when page 10 of the report, and I read, clearly says, the Prime Minister of Haiti, with the concurrence of the Council of Ministers, addressed a letter to the UN Security Council on 9th October 2022, and on 10th October, the UN Security Council. And you just need to understand the making of the UN Security Council. Kenya is a responsible member. So the request came, and it's good he understands this. The request came from the Prime Minister of Haiti to the UN Security Council. The UN Security Council, in turn, requested the member states to contribute. So you need to understand, it's in order for the Honorable Wandai to mislead himself, to mislead members of parliament in Kenya that nobody requested for this. Yet he knows Kenya is a responsible member of the UN.
The more you listen to these colleagues of mine, the more you get actually amused. Madam Speaker, if it is the case that the request for the Kenyan government to deploy its police officers to Haiti came from the UN, can we have a look at the UN Security Council resolution that authorized this deployment? Does it make mention of Kenya, even for a moment? Does the UN Security Resolution authorizing this deployment make mention of Kenya? It does not. That's my submission. And therefore, we are basically getting into some kind of misadventure for reasons which are not known to the rest of us. The reasons could be known to a few people who are in the executive. But we want to tell you that you cannot use our Kenyan.
No, please kindly give him another 5 minutes because he was interrupted severally.
You cannot use our police women and men as guinea pigs at the altar of rent seeking. Because we know for sure that the motivation for this misadventure is money. Is money. People want to use our hapless police officers as guinea pigs in their bid to get cheap money. If you are sure that our Kenyan police officers are going to be safe in Haiti, first of all, start by taking there your child or brother, or go there yourself. Go there yourself. And then they tell us, Madam Speaker, that you see, oh, the reason why Kenyan is leading this mission is because Kenyan people have got the same skin complexion as the Haitians. Are Kenyans the only black people in this part of the world? Are we short of black people in that part of the world? If you go to the Caribbean, the whole of South America, indeed, even some parts of North America, don't we have black people? Are we the only black people in this world, us and Haitians? What kind of nonsense is this? Very parliamentary. Because you cannot lead us to indulge in an illegality at the altar of rent seeking. And therefore, with those very many remarks, and to allow my colleagues to equally contribute, I reject in toto. This ill-advised motion. This very ill-advised motion, I reject it in toto. And I want to appeal to my colleagues from both sides of the political divide to equally reject this motion, if only to save our country and the future of our children and our grandchildren. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I oppose.
Dion, you have a point of order? Oh, yes. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this motion for the deployment of our National Police Service officers to Haiti to restore order. Honorable Speaker, allow me first to begin by...
Honorable Nikal, what is your point of order?
Madam Speaker, my point of order is we have the body of the, we have the report, but this report we do not have annexures. So we can't make references even to what people are saying, and the report as a whole has not been available. Is it possible to get those annexures so that we have a full report? And actually, the full report, this is an important debate, so we should have the full report as we discuss. Is it possible?
Thank you. I direct that the clerk's desk ensures that you immediately get some copies to come within the House. You'll receive them in a few minutes. Honorable Nyikal, proceed, Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I had hoped you direct the Honorable Nyikal to the table room up here, room 8, because there are adequate copies with annexures, and I have a report that was tabled with annexures. So if his PA photocopied with Honorable Speaker, allow me to first disabuse a lot of misinformation that has been given by our colleague and my good friend, the Honorable Opio Wandai. And I heard him, Honorable Speaker, say that the UN Security Council resolution 2699 of 2023, that it does not even mention Kenya anywhere. And I'll draw him to page 23, actually the third page of the UN Security Council, and he will notice that taking note of the call made by the government of Kenya on September 21st, 2023, urging the United Nations to urgently deliver an appropriate framework to facilitate the deployment of a multinational security support as part of a holistic response to Haiti's challenges, calling in the Security Council. Therefore, and the whole document is replete with a mention of Kenya, even the Kenyan delegation that visited Haiti to assess the situation in Haiti and report back to the Security Council, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, let me first disabuse that notion that the UN Security Council did not take cognizance of the role being taken by Kenya. Two, Honorable Speaker, is to note, and I think the Leader of Minority had not read the committee's report that was tabled yesterday, because yesterday I was with the Leader of Minority in somewhere in Stony Athi, deliberating on other matters of national importance, like the cost of living, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, he may have missed the tabling of the report. And because the report here, I will again share this report with the Leader of Minority, because Kenya is deploying our officers as part of this MSS team, the Multinational Security Support Mission. And Honorable Speaker, other countries, if you just go to the report, and I just want to be very brief and draw reference to the report, that the Kenya mission, Kenya is to lead the nation, is a lead nation for the MSS mission to Haiti, which includes, because the Leader of Minority was asking emotionally, are we the only Africans? Are we only black people, us and Haiti? And this report that is before, I'm sure it is there in his office even, because his PA is a very diligent officer, says this mission includes Senegal. Senegalese are Africans. They are black people, like you and me. Burundi. Burundians are Bantus, like myself and you, although you are half Nilot, half Bantu. Burundians are as
What's
black and as Bantu as I am.
Allow Honorable Wandai to prosecute his point of order.
Madam Speaker, I just want to ask you if it is in order for the Honorable Majority Leader to turn this debate into a debate on the person of the Leader of Minority. And more importantly, to attempt to classify me as a Bantu come Nilot. How does that come in, Madam Speaker, in this debate? Huh? Madam Speaker, please protect me from the Leader of Majority. Protect me.
Leader of Majority, I'll let you respond.
Honorable Speaker, you know the Honorable Pio and I, besides being my colleague on the other side, is also my friend. And he knows I know Gunja, I know the county of Siaya, and I know the intermarriages between the great people of the Luopin nation and those of the house of Mulembe. who are Bantus. And there are facts that are undeniable, and the member for Gunja knows. Honorable Speaker, protect the honorable minority leader from those who are now claiming that he's their cousin. But I was saying, Honorable Speaker, Burundians are as black as the Honorable Pio and myself are, and the Africans and black people. Honorable Speaker, Chad is another African country that is in this mission. Other partners in the Caribbean and the Americas who are also of African descent and black people. Therefore, I just wanted, Honorable Speaker, to begin by disabusing that notion that it is a Kenyan mission. It is a multinational security support mission, which Kenya is honored to lead. And as patriotic leaders, as Kenyan patriots, we cannot stand in our own National Assembly and say that we are using our officers who are very patriotic young men and women who have given their lives to protect life and property of Kenyans and people of the world where they may be deployed. And like the doctors affirm what do you call it, Dr. Nyika, the Hippocratic Oath or something close to that. Our police officers and armed security men take an oath to defend life and to serve their nation anywhere they may be deployed, including being deployed in the residence of our leaders like Opio and I. That officer guarding your house today and guarding your family is a patriotic young man or young lady who has given his life to protect you and your family. We therefore cannot disparage them by saying they are being used as guinea pigs. They are doing their patriotic and national duty, not only to elevate our country's security forces and their performance, Honorable Speaker, because the other notion that is being disabused, it is made to look from the submissions by the leader of minority that this is the first mission that the National Police Service is being deployed to. Honorable Speaker, if the leader of minority had bothered to read this report, and I must commend the chair of the Security Committee, the Honorable Tongoyo, his vice chair, and the members of the committee, because they were very diligent. Kenya has previously engaged in other missions, including that in Kosovo, Yugoslavia, Darfur in our region here, Namibia in Africa, Timor, Angola, Sierra Leone, and even Croatia. I don't know how many black Africans live in Croatia, but we did that as part of the community of nations. And the deployment, Honorable Speaker, the proposed deployment that we are being asked to approve is anchored on our responsibilities or the responsibility of Kenya as a UN member state and as part of that global community of nations. Honorable, historically, Kenya has been a leading participant in providing solutions to global security challenges. We indeed, as leaders, should feel honored as a country that our country has been called up by the UN Security Council and other nations of the world to serve in restoring security and restoring the dignity of other human beings, whether they are black people or not. And that's why I said Croatians are not black people. They are not Africans. But we have participated in missions to secure their country, to make it and restore the dignity of the people of Croatia and other areas, including other African countries, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the other issue that has been raised, Honorable Speaker, which I would want to respond to, is the National Police Service part of our national security organs, Honorable Speaker? And Honorable Speaker, if you read Article 239, because it is one thing, Honorable Speaker, for the Honorable Pio and I being a lawyer, and I'm not a lawyer, Honorable Speaker, and I have asserted, I am not a lawyer, and I have no desire of.
Allow the majority leader another 3 minutes to finish.
Honorable Speaker, I was saying, I have no desire of ever becoming a liar. Therefore, because lawyers, Honorable Speaker, are always intent on reading the law in the way it favors them. because that is what they do as liars. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, because I'm not a liar, Honorable Speaker, I read the Constitution as an accountant who is able to read
What's
good
your point of
English,
order, TJ
interprets
Kajwang?
the Constitution as it is. Article 239 is not read in.
Honorable Kajwang, TJ Kajwang, CJ Kajwang.
Madam Speaker, of course, the majority leader wants to have some very humorous opportunity in the House to make this debate lively. But Honorable Speaker, majority leader is calling us lawyers liars, and is calling you, who is on the seat of the Speaker, a great lady of this country, that all that you have done all your career is to be a liar, and is facing you eyeball to eyeball and calling you a liar in the National Assembly. Well, Otiende and I, we are small people in this society. But Madam Speaker, you of all the people, you are a liar. Madam Speaker, is he in order to call us lawyers who have struggled our horse years and practiced more than 30 years in this country, that we are just but liars?
Honorable Leader of Majority, I hope to God you are not calling me a liar, but what I heard was that you were saying liar or lawyers. Please confirm that you're not calling the lawyers in the House liars. Clarify.
You know, Honorable Speaker, I have tremendous respect for liars. And our pronunciation, Honorable Speaker, the other day I was having tea with my good friend, the Honorable TJ Kajwang. And the Honorable TJ Kajwang spoke to me about a sip. And I was wondering, what sip? And because we were sipping tea, Honorable Speaker, only to come to learn he was speaking about the ship that had deployed the oil in Mombasa. Therefore, our pronunciation, Honorable Speaker, based on where we come from, varies. And the Honorable TJ Kajwang should forgive me, because where I come from, LRW, where you have W and Y, we have that difficulty. So I have the advocates of this country, let me use the word advocates. The advocates who serve, like the Honorable TJ Kajwang, are great people, and including yourself, Honorable Speaker, and you know I have tremendous respect for you and other advocates in this country. But I was speaking about, I have no intention ever of becoming one of them, because I'm an accountant. And I'm able to read, because going back to my point, I'm able to read the Constitution and interpret it, because the Constitution is not written in a lot of legalese, it's plain English. And Article 239, Honorable Speaker, of the national security, that defines our national security organs, says that the national security organs are the Kenya Defense Forces, National Intelligence Services, and the National Police Service. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, if you read on Article 239, sub-article 6, it says that Parliament shall enact legislation to provide for the functions, organization, and administration of the national security organs. And therefore, our National Police Service is part and parcel of our national security organs that the National Security Council can seek to be deployed to restore order, or in case of emergency, as that has been sought in the country.
The Honorable Member for Kisumu West, Honorable Rosa Buyu.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. From the onset, I'd like to say that I'm a member of the committee that has presented this motion. Madam Speaker, unfortunately, in the final stages, when this report was being written, I had to dash to my constituency and therefore was not able to be present to append my signature as a dissenting voice to this report. Madam Speaker, I'm not an advocate and I'm not a lawyer, but I stand here to speak as a citizen of this country. Madam Speaker, I want to speak on behalf of millions of Kenyans who are not able to give their views this morning on this motion. Madam Speaker, I speak for thousands of residents in Lamu. I speak for thousands of residents in the North Rift. Madam Speaker, I stand to speak for residents who are in Northeastern. And I also stand to speak for all those residents in Sondu who in the recent past have experienced the skirmishes of the clashes that have cost many Kenyans their lives. Madam Speaker, the UN recommendation report clearly states that there should be one policeman at a ratio of 450 citizens. In Kenya today, Madam Speaker, we have one policeman to the ratio of 1,152 Kenyans. Madam Speaker, the result of this can clearly be seen in this country, where the impact of few police officers is felt in the violent occurrences in many parts of this country, where many Kenyans end up losing their lives. Madam Speaker, we've been told that security does not lie in the numbers of security officers. That might be true, but Madam Speaker, you can only train and make good quality of numbers that you have. Madam Speaker, we know that charity begins at home. Madam Speaker, where is the sense in taking 1,000 police officers to Haiti when Kenyans are dying in need of protection, in need of service from their police officers? Madam Speaker, the government or the head of the government took an oath to protect the lives of its citizens. Madam Speaker, you don't protect the lives of your citizens by taking police officers who are supposed to protect them away from them to a land called Haiti. You can only protect their lives by enhancing the numbers and enhancing the security amongst your citizens. Madam Speaker, we've also been told in this report, and we've heard from the leader of majority, that Kenya owes it to the international community, which we are part of. Madam Speaker, if you cannot contain and protect lives of your people, surely where do you have the guts to take away to protect lives of people in Haiti? Madam Speaker, we've been told that Haiti is a land of gangs where no president can sit pretty, because so far, 4 presidents have been beheaded and murdered, and the gangs maraud the whole land of Haiti. Madam Speaker, I want to agree with our leader of minority that in taking these 1,000 officers to Haiti, we are actually doing nothing but sending them there as sacrificial lamb, because in a country that's ruled by gangs, in a country where there's no law and order, in a country where there's no respect for human life, why, Madam Speaker, give me one reason why we take 1,000 of our officers into that land. Madam Speaker, I stand here to register my dissent and opposition
Let's hear the point
to
of
this
order. I'll give
project
you a
of
minute.
taking our members to.
Mike, Honorable Speaker, I'm sorry
I'll
to
give you a
disrupt my
minute,
sister.
Honorable Buyu, to finish.
Honorable
Proceed.
Speaker, I was rising on standing order 106 on irrelevance and repetition, because I've listened to the Honorable Rosa Buyu continuously repeat herself on issues to do with Sondu. And when I looked at the motion before the House, Honorable Speaker, at least towards the end, as she was completing, she was speaking about Haiti, because the debate was on the deployment to Haiti. Honorable Speaker, more importantly, I have a copy of the report. And the Honorable Rosa Buyu, as she has asserted, is a member of this committee. And Honorable Speaker, I was going to advise Honorable Speaker, the kind of things Honorable Rosa Buyu was alluding to are things I have seen a very diligent member of that committee in the name of Honorable Kaluma, what he did. He has been able to express himself in a dissenting report. The Honorable Rosa Buyu, I'm told, never even attended the committee sittings to benefit from, and the minutes are there, Honorable Speaker. I'm not just speaking to things I do not know, because minutes of the committee are in the report. The Honorable Rosa Buyu never attended a single meeting of the committee. and now seeks to speak to the
Give you a
gallery
chance, Honorable
with a
Rosa.
lot of irrelevancies about Sondu and other areas. Honorable Speaker, I will just beg that we be relevant in line with the Standing Order 106 and restrict ourselves to the issue of Haiti, not Sondu, not Kikuyu, not Baringo, and other areas, Honorable Speaker.
I think, Honorable Rosa, I'll give you 2 minutes so that you can finish your, because you were interrupted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, for the records, I was in the meeting, the joint meeting of the two committees, Committee of National Assembly and Committee of the Senate. And I deliberated, and even in that committee, I actually voiced my opposition. Madam Speaker, I've clearly stated that I wasn't able to come in the last committee when the report was being finalized, because I owe it to my people to be in the constituency when the duty calls, and I was there. Madam Speaker, the reason why I'm talking about Sondu, Baringo, Lamu, Northeastern, and the other places is because those places are experiencing violent, that's actually leading to deaths of many people, Madam Speaker. It is the police who are charged with responsibility to protect Kenyans. These are the police we want to take away from Kenyans to take to Haiti. Madam Speaker, the leader of majority sometimes should learn to be relevant himself instead of standing up on useless point of orders. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable TJ, your point of order.
Madam Speaker, I have been listening to the debate which is going in the House. Let us be sober. The onerous duty, Madam Speaker, that has been given to us as the National Assembly to approve forces deployment is a very important thing. And so let us take out emotions and let us look at facts, because this, in my recollection, is the very first time we are doing this. And at the end of the day, it will be our appendage to the force distribution or deployment as a mandate of the National Assembly. Madam Speaker, I'm just looking at the law so that we do not do something unconstitutional and so that we don't do something outside the law. Section 108 of the Police Service Act states that the president may, on the application of the government of a reciprocating country and so on. I have looked at the functions. Madam Speaker, I've looked at the functions of the police service, and I have looked through all the functions that are given to the Inspector General, except for 108, the only section in which the president may send police service is section 108. The rest of the sections, police service are a homeland. They protect inside the country. The only place in which police service can go outside the country is under 108. And under 108, it begins by saying the president can do that, but in a reciprocating country. Madam Speaker, I would want the chair to express itself to apply its mind to whether Haiti is a reciprocating country. Whether Haiti is a reciprocating country. Because if it is not a reciprocating country, over all the things we have said, police service is supposed to help us internally, not outside. And the authority given by the law is only the authority to reciprocating countries. And so, Madam Speaker, I think this is a very important issue that even as we are going on, I don't say that we stay the proceedings, but I'm asking that the speakership should apply its mind and come back with a reasoned communication from the chair, whether in the facts of this matter, Haiti is a reciprocating country for which we as National Assembly have the requisite jurisdiction
to approve the forces to go to a foreign country. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Kamkunji, Honorable Yusuf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand to support this resolution, and I do so as a former member of the United Nations and full respect for the UN Charter and our role as a member of the international community. In fact, Madam Speaker, the Haiti government had requested the United Nations Security Council to help the stabilization of that country, on whose security situation is in dire straits at the moment. The situation in Haiti is grim. Law and order has collapsed, and the people of Haiti and the government of Haiti need support. And as a result of that, the UN Security Council passed a resolution. This is a resolution which was passed on the 2nd of October 2023, which approved the deployment of UN troops and UN police to stabilize the situation in Haiti. And every UN resolution has, which deploys peacekeeping, has a police component. Under Chapter 6 or Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, the UN has the powers to deploy peacekeeping forces, peace enforcement forces, and that includes a police component, which in this particular case, the Republic of Kenya has been asked, and at the request of the Haitian government and at the request of the United Nations, we are now obliged to deploy a police force to Haiti. We are not an island, Madam Speaker. We don't live in an isolated world. We are part of the international community, and Haiti is not an isolated country for us. Haitians are of African descent, and Kenya, as a member of the African Union, fully supports not only the 55 African countries that are members of the African Union and also members of the United Nations, but all the countries with people of African descent, which includes the entire Caribbean nations, Brazil, and many other countries. And with the history of Haiti as it is, we've had a major interaction with the people and the leadership of Haiti over the years. From 1945, if you remember, when the Pan-African Conference was held in Manchester in the UK, the 5th African Conference, Jomo Kenyatta, who became our president, attended that. We also had a Haitian delegation. We had a large number of Caribbean delegation, including CLR James, William Dubois. So we have always been part of the Pan-African movement, of which Haiti, as an important country, is an integral part. We are not, this is not the first time we're deploying internationally, Madam Speaker. There's a lot of commotion here. Can you,
Honorable Speaker,
we cannot engage in a proper debate.
we are having serious disruption from the air here.
I can-
A very important member.
Madam Speaker,
Honorable Caroli, please do not address the member. You can only address the House through the chair. Okay, proceed, Honorable. Yusuf.
Madam Speaker, for the information of this House, this is not the first time Kenya has deployed internationally in peacekeeping operations. We have deployed more than 15 times. I personally remember serving in a number of peacekeeping missions. We deployed in East Timor. East Timor at that time did not have a government. The government had collapsed, and the United Nations deployed peacekeeping forces and ran that country until it became independent. And we had a police force. We have also deployed, Madam Speaker, in Namibia, in Cambodia, in Yugoslavia, in Bosnia-Herzegovina, in East Timor, as I have said, in Sierra Leone, in Kosovo, in Angola. And at the moment, we have police officers serving in conflict areas in South Sudan, in Somalia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Sudan, and Western Sahara. So our forces have been in place, and therefore what we are doing now is just deploying in support of a UN resolution to keep peace in Haiti. And we need to support the people of Haiti. We need to be part of the solution to the problem of Haiti. And
The Honorable Sarah Correre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also rise to support the motion. And indeed, Madam Speaker, this motion is properly before this House. Madam Speaker, it is true that Kenya is a member of the United Nations, and we have the responsibility to be our brother's keeper. And for avoidance of doubt, Madam Speaker, I want to refer this House to the report of the Committee on Security. Madam Speaker, Kenya has posted its police officers to other missions in the other years as late as 1989. And Madam Speaker, in 1989 to 1990, Kenya deployed its officers to Namibia, and we sent 30 officers to Namibia. In 1992 to 1993, Kenya sent its officers to Cambodia, 20 of them. In 1992 to 1995, police officers were sent to the former Yugoslavia, 50 officers were sent there. In 1995 to 1996, Kenyan officers were sent to Bosnia, and 20 officers were sent there. In 1999 to 2002, we sent 40 officers to East Timor. In 1998, we sent police and civilian support to Croatia, and 20 officers were sent. 1998 to 1999, officers were sent to Sierra Leone Mission, and 5 officers were sent. Madam Speaker, in 1999 to 2005, officers again were sent to Sierra Leone, and 51 officers were sent. In 1999 to 2008, officers were sent to Kosovo, and 98 officers were sent to Kosovo. In the year 2005 and 2006, the African Union sent Kenyan officers, 50 of them to Darfur. And Madam Speaker, to date, we have officers in South Sudan, we have officers in Somalia, we have officers in the DRC, we have officers in ABA, we have officers in Western Sahara, we have police officers in New York, we have police officers in Italy and Addis Ababa. And Madam Speaker, when this thing came before our committee, we raised several questions. One among them was, Haiti is a French-speaking country. How are we going to send our officers there? And Madam Speaker, it came to my realization that security officers speak in silence. And that is why if you come to Laikipia today, Madam Speaker, where the British Army used to train since colonial times to date, you will get children of mixed races. And these officers don't speak in Maasai language, and the Maasais don't speak the British language. But how these things happen, it is because security officers speak in silence. And Madam Speaker, Burundi is sending its troops there. Burundi is a Swahili and French-speaking nation, and they're going to give support to our troops. Senegal is sending its troops there. Madam Speaker, we are a global nation. We are an international community. When the world is not safe, when Haiti is not safe, we are not safe. What is happening in Haiti, Madam Speaker, is some gangs terrorizing locals. Women are raped, children are kicked out of their houses, and what our police is going to do is to give support to the Haitian police, to train them, to secure critical infrastructure. And Madam Speaker, if a woman in Haiti is not saved, I'm not saving Kenya. So, Madam Speaker, I want to support, and again, I want to refer this House to the Constitution. The National Police Act, Section 1081. And Madam Speaker, unless we are speaking in
The Honorable Member for Nyaribari Chache, Zahi Janda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the Haiti motion because, Madam Speaker, we are a global community of nations, and it is absolutely essential for Kenya, together with other multinationals, to help Haiti. It is a matter of humanitarian consideration to help offer support to our brothers and sisters in Haiti. Madam Speaker, the sole aim is to help usher in stability, development, and democratic governance through a political framework owned and driven by the people of Haiti. Madam Speaker, it was through a request by the UN Security Council of the deployment of multinational security missions to Haiti. Kenya, Madam Speaker, will help to reinforce Haiti National Police Force. Madam Speaker, I fully support the deployment of Kenyan Police Force. Our
The Honorable Karoli Omondi.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I begin by first noting that there exists a proper legal framework for the deployment of our police service men and women overseas, and that is under Article 107 and 108 of the National Police Service Act. I think that matter rests there. Though I would urge that proper gazette notices be issued by the executive to give effect to those provisions. Madam Speaker, the seeds of the current turmoil in Haiti commenced with the arrival of Christopher Columbus in the New World. And if you've had the privilege of reading the book by C.L.R. James, The Black Jacobins, who was a teacher of my friend who has just left here, the member for Kamkunji, he begins by saying, Christopher Columbus landed in the New World, and after praising God, urgently inquired for gold. In other words, it was an expedition of exploitation. And when they annihilated the indigenous Indian population of Haiti, efforts were made to transship Africans from the west coast of Africa to Haiti. And since then, Haiti has prospered, created a lot of wealth for so many people, but has also been a tragedy to the African people. It is my conviction that it is very important that we all take an interest in what is happening in Haiti. Haiti was the first African-led country in the Western Hemisphere, where the slaves rose up, fought away the French, won their freedom.
The Honorable Member for Belgut. The member for Belgut is not there. The Honorable Member for Tindiret. Your time is up.
Thank you. Is it me or?
Let's give the Honorable Chair now that he has arrived.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Allow me also to add my voice on the deployment to Haiti. And like many of my colleagues have said, in fact, I really don't understand why they do not involve the Defense Committee on this matter. And I've listened to TJ Kajwang. I just want to invite him also to look at the act. If you look at the discretion, you will go to 1081, and you will see the president will also interpret the discretion differently. But I don't want to go to the details. Let me just go to the humanitarian bit of where we need our police officers to be in Haiti as soon as possible. Honorable Speaker, we've done, this country has been on different missions before, with people on missions on countries where we are not even related in any way, not in color, not in religion, but we participated. Our officers have been to Kosovo, our officers have been to Sierra Leone, our officers have been to East Timor. In fact, the Deputy DIG, Gabo himself, led a mission that did so well in East Timor. And it is part of the reasons why we must deploy our officers to Haiti. Kenya in 2018 was recognized, and 28 officers by the United Nations and promoted. In fact, the United Nations took one of the officers, the Chief Inspector of Police, Kerubo, and retained her in the UN because of the deployment that had been done to Southern Sudan and the work that they did in Southern Sudan, and in recognition for their distinguished service in Southern Sudan in trying to restore peace in that country. Our officers were recognized by the United Nations, and on 26th June of 2028, 23 Kenyan police officers were awarded different medals of recognition for that effort. Honorable Speaker, our foreign policy is hinged on 5 pillars. There is peace diplomacy, economic diplomacy, environmental diplomacy, cultural diplomacy, and diaspora diplomacy. This country must continuously be the anchor of peace that it is. We must continuously engage in making sure that the regions that we've been asked or deployed, we as a country are able to participate in restoring peace within the region. Honorable Speaker, Kenya has done so well. We've like I did mention in the beginning of the week, shortly our officers from Somali who have restored relative calm will be on a drawdown coming back to the country. We are engaged in peace missions within the region, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Somali, Burundi, and many other countries. I honestly do not see why we cannot go to Haiti. The problem in Haiti, and we should also be very fair, Kenya, this is the gangs, and they are only in the capital of Haiti, that is Port-au-Prince. The gangs that Haiti is dealing with are about 200 gangs. This country before, and the records are here in this house, in the year 2017, we were told Kenya had 325 gangs, including Mugiki, including Chingororo, and many other gangs that we have. Honorable Soro is not amused about Chingororo, but all of them were quelled by our police officers. Honorable Speaker, I want to submit that our officers are able, and there is no reason why we should not deploy our officers to Haiti. Honorable Speaker, I support.
The Honorable Member for Lari, Honorable Joseph Kahangera.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I raise under Standing Order 95, considering that we have had many members who are supporting and those who are opposed, considering also that we have more important business before the House. Madam Speaker, I wish to ask that the mover be called to reply.
It seems it's the mood of the House that I should. Mover will reply. seems it's the mood of the House. I should put the question. Honorable members, I now Honorable Rubatongoya. Honorable members, it's hard to decide, so we'll proceed with this first. Honorable members, I now put the question, taking into account the consideration and the recommendations of the Joint Committee of the National Assembly, Departmental Committee of the Administration and Internal Security, that the Joint Committee of the National Assembly, led by the Honorable Member of Tongoya as the chair, be called to reply. Honorable members, I now put the question that taking into consideration, honorable members, just allow me to proceed with this. We have to say it properly, which means I have to say the title of the Joint Committee, which is chaired by Honorable Tongoya, to be called to reply. I want to put that question. Yeah, so if you just let me do my job. Honorable members, because there is a dispute as to whether we should whether the mover should reply or not. Isn't that the question before the House? So I want to ask, yes, I want to ask whether the House is in agreement. You will have an opportunity to decide as the House whether the mover should be called to reply or not. Okay, honorable member, when you finish making your altercation. What's your point of order, Honorable Otiende?
Madam Speaker, I want your guidance. I will wait until you're done consulting. Madam Speaker, I wish to get your guidance on a fundamental matter, and that is the fact that this being a house of debate, usually the minority will have their say and the majority will have their way. Madam Speaker, I want to bring to your attention that it may not be easy for you to determine who is the majority and who is the minority. But it is clear that in the course of this very short debate, it is the majority who have had the greatest contribution in the following manner. The Honorable Yusuf came to the minority side and is clearly of the majority side. The Honorable Korere came to the minority side, is clearly of the majority side, with the result that being minority, we are not even, I'm on a point of order. Mr. Majority Leader, I'm on a point of order. You can't be on a point of order also.
Honorable
So
Otiende,
all I wanted, your guidance is this. The guidance I want is this.
I will give you the guidance.
Yes. Where it is clear that the minority is denied both their say and clearly their way, is that in line with the parliamentary standing orders?
Honorable Otiende, the mere fact that somebody is from the minority side doesn't mean that they are required to always object or not support the report. The point is that the minority side got the opportunity equal to that of the majority side. If the members of the minority side decided to support the majority side, that is within the prerogative of those individual members. And honorable members, because seems to be disagreement as to whether the mover should reply or not, I will put the question as to whether the mover reply or not, and then you will have the chance to have your ayes and nays. Honorable members, I now put the question that the mover be called to reply. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. You have insufficient numbers. You don't have sufficient numbers. Okay, the numbers are not sufficient. Mover to reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to really thank members who contributed into this very important motion. And having keenly listened to all of them, it's true, it's a very important matter. And I want to appreciate all of you who supported to send our very disciplined, professional, and competent officers to the country of Haiti to help bring peace to that country of our African descendant. Madam Speaker, I just want to highlight a few things. One, why Kenya was appointed as the lead nation. It's true, Madam Speaker, is on record that Kenya has previously participated in helping bringing peace to the world. And there are a few countries that we had mentioned, and mentioned by leader majority and others who spoken.
What's your point of order, Honorable Osoro?
Madam Speaker, protect me.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Mayo is acting disorderly in this house. She's tearing and throwing papers around while a member is making presentation, Honorable Speaker. I think it is quite in order for her to behave that way in the floor of the house. Tearing papers, you know, throwing papers all over, walking around and shouting. Honorable Catherine Omayo.
Okay, I didn't see that, but I will get the cameras. We will have the cameras reviewed, and the matter she can be dealt with at a later time. Let us proceed, member for Narok.
So, Madam Speaker, thank you so much. I've just mentioned that I want to outline a few things, Madam Speaker. One, the very fundamental question before us here is whether the procedure was followed. I want to confirm to the country and this House that the committee followed the due process of law to the letter. And it has been actually from the report, Madam Speaker, attached to the report, it indicated how we, from the Security Council, from the UN, coming to the CS, Internal Security and Administration, coming, but Leader Kidogo, just a bit. So I want to confirm that we followed the due process to the letter, Madam Speaker. It is evidence, Madam Speaker, out of the 15 members of the committee, we had 14 or 13 approving the report and deployment of our officers, and only one minority report, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is true that Kenya has participated previously in several peace missions, and they had continuously done it with great distinction and honor. We are a proud country that we are known for many other things, and including also our officers to help bringing peace. Madam Speaker, there is one thing that I want just to bring it to the attention, that the period of deployment is 1 year, and it will be reviewed after nine months. Another thing of importance to mention, Madam Speaker, the cost. I know Kenyans are wondering and asking questions on who bears the cost. It is good to be on record, Madam Speaker, that the entire cost, 100% will be bared and borne by the UN. Madam Speaker, I want to challenge and call those of us who had reservation to please, let's support our discipline officers to go to the country of Haiti with our prayers and support, and we continue reclaiming our position as a country in the global stage. We have done it before, and we are going to continuously do it. So Madam Speaker, with these few remarks, I beg to reply. Thank you so much.
Honorable members, thank you. Honorable members, I now put the question that taking into consideration the recommendation of the Joint Committee of the National Assembly, Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security, and the Senate Standing Committee on the National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations, in its report on the request regarding the deployment of officers of the National Police Service to the Multinational Security Support Mission to Haiti, laid on the table of this House on Wednesday, 15th November 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 248A, this House approves the deployment of the officers of the National Police Service to the Multinational Security Support Mission to Haiti. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 10, report on the first supplementary estimates for the financial year 2023-2024.
The Honorable proceed. Chairperson Budget, proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I rise to move the report from the Budget and Appropriations Committee, the report on the supplementary estimates 1 of the financial year 2023-2024. And Honorable Speaker, previously I've had many minutes to move this kind of bills and reports, and therefore, Honorable Speaker, today, I don't wish to take so much time because I can see we have a lot of business that is important, Honorable Speaker, today. But Honorable Speaker, I just first of all want to wish to bring to the attention of the House that the budget that you are currently implementing is a budget of 3.744 trillion shillings. And Honorable Speaker, what we are doing with these supplementary estimates is that we are realigning government priorities in regards to the current circumstance, Honorable Speaker, so that we are able to allocate our resources in areas that are a high impact and that will have the shortest time from the input to output. Honorable Speaker, we are making this supplementary budget or estimates in a situation where our country, Honorable Speaker, is facing a myriad of issues. And therefore, what we try to do as the Budget and Appropriations Committee is to align the limited resources that we have as our country to be able to address the issues that are current and that which gives a great foundation for the future of Kenya that we are creating. And to go to specifics, Honorable Speaker,
Honorable Chairperson, I hope you will move the motion as written after you finish.
Yes, I'll move after I finish. Or I can do that even now. I moved. Honorable Speaker, I had wished to do this when I am concluding, but it's always better to do it earlier so that members can also get talking points from the essence of the order paper. Honorable Speaker, I wish that is the report on the first supplementary estimates for financial 2023-2024. Honorable Speaker, I wish that this House adopts the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the first supplementary estimates for the financial year 2023-2024, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 15th November 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution and Standing Order 243, 1, that approves the increment of the total recurrent expenditure for financial year 2023-2024 by Kenya shillings 90 billion 717 million 383 million 737 shillings in respect of the votes as contained in the first schedule. 2, approves a decrease of the total capital expenditure for financial year 2023-2024 by Kenya shillings 24 billion 515 million 810,722 shillings in respect of the votes as contained in the first schedule. 3, approves an overall increase in the total budget for financial year 2023-2024 by Kenya shillings 66 billion 201 million 573,015 shillings in respect of the votes as contained in the first schedule. And 4, approves Kenya shillings 1 billion 736 million 121,765 spent under Article 223 of the Constitution in respect of the votes outlined in the third schedule. 5, resolves as the first schedule forms the basis for the introduction of the Supplementary Appropriations Number 3 Bill of 2023, and 6, further makes the policy resolutions contained in the fourth schedule to the order paper. Honorable Speaker, I'll just add a few remarks before I move. I was saying that we are in a circumstance where we are trying to align the limited resources that we have as our country to be able to address the current situation of issues, Honorable Speaker, as we also lay a basis of the growth of our economy. And Honorable Speaker, I want to laud this House because of the policies that we have been making, both on the finance sphere, but also in regards to budget, because all these are laws that we make in this House. And Honorable Speaker, I don't know whether the consultations can be a bit lower.
Honorable members, let us give the chair budget kindly opportunity to be heard. So let's consult in lower tones. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'm saying that I want to laud this House because of the policies that we have been making, both on the finance front and also on the budget, because these are laws that we make. And even budget making process, Honorable Speaker, is part of lawmaking in one respect. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that our country has had several issues that we are dealing with in regards to the economic growth on the front of the macros, but also what I would call the economy of the pocket. And Honorable Speaker, the economy of the pocket, where the rubber meets the road, I want to say that there is room for improvement in terms of making sure that the standard of life of Kenyans is improving, also as we lower the cost of living. And Honorable Speaker, this is always a moving target, and we are doing everything possible so that we have this contained and aligned. But Honorable Speaker, it is important also that we celebrate some of the issues that are happening in our country. Even with the hardships that we have in our economy, Honorable Speaker, it is important that I mention to this House that through the policies that we make, we have been able to contain inflation as one of the parameters of macroeconomics, Honorable Speaker. And I want to say that a year ago where we were in terms of inflation, in regards to now or comparative to now, we are in a much better situation. And Honorable Speaker, I say so because our inflation was almost going into double digits. But as we talk here, Honorable Speaker, last month, the data we got from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is that our inflation is actually below 7%. It is important that I mention that our benchmark in terms of inflation in Kenya is 5%, and then there is a band of plus or minus 2.5% either way. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, on that front, it is important that I mention we are doing well. But Honorable Speaker, on the way we measure inflation, we look at it on the food side, which is food inflation, and also we add fuel inflation, and then liquor inflation. I want to say that we have been doing pretty well out of the fiscal policies that we have employed in terms of containing food inflation. But also, Honorable Speaker, we have a challenge on fuel inflation, and I am sure the policies that we are putting in place will also address that sphere. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, our inflation would actually be much lower were it not for the gains that have been subdued by the fuel inflation side, Honorable Speaker, and especially on issues that are largely beyond the control of our country, Kenya. But Honorable Speaker, also, on the other parameter of economic growth, it is important that I mention to these colleagues of mine who have been very, very instrumental in also shaping the decisions that we make as the Budget Committee, but that notwithstanding the economy of the pocket that is not doing so well, Kenya as a macro economy, Honorable Speaker, is actually doing very well comparatively globally. Honorable Speaker, in the first quarter of 2023, Kenya economy grew by 5.3%. Honorable Speaker, in the second quarter of 2023, the Kenyan GDP grew by 5.4%. Honorable Speaker, this is not just the Kenyan data, but data from even Bretton Woods institutions like IMF and World Bank. And in that respect, Honorable Speaker, Kenya in the first quarters of 2023 was actually the 29th fastest growing economy in the world. Honorable Speaker, these are things that are important to mention, where that there is also something that we need to do to make sure that this economic growth is felt in the pockets of Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, why are we making this supplementary budget? Honorable Speaker, I'll mention just a few, because I want to conclude in the next 5 minutes so that we go to also the debate. And I want members, kindly, if it's possible, because this is the essence of this debate, you may conceptualize it. The essence of making this supplementary is, number one, to address the issue of payment of interest rates so that we can go step by step. The real reason of having this supplementary budget now is because we as a country want to provision enough resources for the payment of interest rates. Out of the total increment of this budget of around 200 billion, 145 billion Kenya shillings is an increment in the payments of interest rates. Honorable Speaker, one would ask, why are we doing it now? And we just did our budget in the month of June. The reason is this, Honorable Speaker. From the month of June to date, we have had two main issues happening around interest rates. One is the interest rate itself, which is the cost of money. Honorable Speaker, we have had to raise our interest rates as home so that, Honorable Speaker, we can make Kenya attractive for capital inflows. Honorable Speaker, this is a contractionary measure, Honorable Speaker, that we are doing as an economy. Honorable Speaker, interest rates, therefore, domestically and globally have been rising. And therefore, the cost of our debt has been rising. And therefore, we needed to provision monies for the payment of this interest rate. On the second front is Forex. Honorable Speaker, our debt 1 year ago was 50-50, 50% domestic and 50% foreign. In a debt situation of 10 trillion, it therefore means our foreign debt was around 5 trillion Kenya shillings. And actually, to quote precisely, Honorable Speaker, it was actually 4.3 trillion Kenya shillings in terms of our domestic debt. Now, out of this foreign debt, majority of it, Honorable Speaker, is dollar denominated. But the Kenya shilling has lost around 20% from January to date. And actually also from June to now, we have been subdued. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, we are provisioning monies so that we are able to pay our obligations timely, Honorable Speaker. And the reason for this, Honorable Speaker, is that the government funds itself using cash, which is the Kenya shilling. But in terms of the payments of international or foreign obligations, we use domestic currencies. That is where there is a loss, Honorable Speaker, and therefore our country will be spending an extra 145 billion Kenya shillings as an increase in cost of our debts when it comes to repayment of our interest rates alone. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, some of the increments that you have made in this budget, number one is education. We have put in 20 billion Kenya shillings in TSC. Honorable Speaker, out of the policies we have passed in this House, policies around NITA, policies around the new NSHF, Honorable Speaker, the previous NHIF, the issues around NSSF, we needed to provision TSC with money, being the largest employer in Kenya. And I want members to also be keen on this. We have also provisioned around 5.4 billion Kenya shillings of the JSS funding in terms of capitation. Honorable Speaker, in this budget, we have provisioned that money. Honorable Speaker, in this supplementary also, we have provisioned monies for the new funding model of the tertiary education. We have put in over 4 billion Kenya shillings into giving scholarships and loans to TVET students. And on the other side of universities, Honorable Speaker, we have provisioned enough resources for the intake that is currently in course and the next intake. Honorable Speaker, we have also provisioned 3.4 billion Kenya shillings, monies for the infrastructure of JSS institutions. And Honorable Speaker, we have also recalibrated that. That money will no longer be going to the Ministry of Education. All that monies will be going to NGCDF because the patrons, the members of this House, have shown that they are the best managers when it comes to execution of public facilities. Honorable Speaker, also, we have provisioned 8.25 billion Kenya shillings that will go into post-harvest management and also the purchase of fertilizer for the next season. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, when it comes to inputs of our agriculture sector, we have taken care of that. Honorable Speaker, we have provisioned monies for sugar reforms. And some of these monies, Honorable Speaker, will be going into payment of arrears owed to Kenya's sugar farmers, Honorable Speaker, so that we can continue releasing more resources to our economy. Honorable Speaker, there is a lot more that we have done in the supplementary estimates, and I will call upon members to also go through the report so that we can also participate. We have given monies to NCPB for the purchase of maize so that the sweat of our farmers will not go down to drains, Honorable Speaker. And we have also provisioned money for coffee cherry fund, Honorable Speaker, so that our coffee farmers can have, Honorable Speaker, a facility to take forward the agriculture sector, and especially when it comes to cash crops. Honorable Speaker, on the policy front, we have seen a lot of improvement by the National Treasury insofar as invoking Article 223 is concerned. This time we are only approving less than 2 billion Kenya shillings, monies spent at Article 223. And the bulk of this money, Honorable Speaker, is going into post-harvest management. Honorable Speaker, also lastly, is that out of the reports that we usually make in this House, Honorable Speaker, the National Treasury or the executive has now come up with a pending bills commission, Honorable Speaker, which will go a long way into addressing those pending bills that have really hampered the growth of our SMEs, Honorable Speaker, majority of whom are owed these monies. Honorable Speaker, with those many remarks, I want to really thank all the members of this House. You have always been a source of knowledge to us as the Budget Committee. I also want to thank all the departmental chairs who have appeared before us for the last few days. And something we also do as the Budget and Appropriations Committee, Honorable Speaker, is that we also ride on the knowledge and the wisdom of the departmental chairs. Honorable Speaker, if you check our reports, you'll clearly see that the Budget and Appropriations Committee respect all the decisions by the departmental chairs. There is usually hardly variations. We rarely never do any variations from the departmental chairs' reports because we believe we should also be capitalizing on the wisdom and the knowledge of the members of the departmental committees in this House. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request the very able Vice Chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, the Honorable Mary Emase, to second.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm being told to be brief. I think members are eager to contribute to this motion. Madam Speaker, as I second, I just want to join my chair from the onset to just appreciate the contribution of the members, all departmental committees, to the budget process. The report you have before you is a combination of a lot of work, effort, commitment, time that members have put through, without forgetting our parliamentary budget office that have had to assist us, direct advice in unpacking the supplementary budget and the whole process up to report preparation and recommendations. Having said that, Madam Speaker, I just want to emphasize on one aspect. You know, for us to appreciate the budget, we must understand the macroeconomic fundamentals underpinning it. The chair has articulated in details, being an economist and a very able chair, but I just want to emphasize, because it's important, we must understand why we have done what we have done in the manner in which we have done it. Madam Speaker, we are preparing supplementary one at a time when Kenya is experiencing a very difficult economic time, and not only Kenya, many countries across the world. On this front, therefore, Madam Chair, I must say our economy has been very resilient to the shocks, the economic shocks. I remember during our discussions, one of the members was telling us, you are blaming everything to the war in Russia, to now the war in Israel. But these are facts we must confront. Even we are still recovering even from the impacts of the COVID-19. Then came the wars, and now we have the vulnerability to debt, and because of the economic tightening of many advanced economies, we are seeing increase in interest rates, we are seeing fluctuations in the exchange rates. So all these things have affected us. And therefore, in view of the foregoing, Madam Speaker, we had to rearrange the budget. We have to rearrange the budget in a manner that addresses or mitigates the impacts of these challenges in the economy. Therefore, just a case in point, we must do this so that we can be able to cushion Kenyans, cushion the nation from more or severe, impacts of the same, and alleviate Kenyans from suffering. Therefore, just a case in point, I want to speak to the aspect of debt. We know that Kenya borrowed the Eurobond sometime in 2014. But to date, that has attracted 70 billion. And right now we're having our foreign debt at 448.7 billion, and domestic debt is at 415, and we are about to borrow more. So what am I saying? At this point, when we're preparing this budget, we have to prepare it in a manner that we are addressing consolidation measures so that we are able to reduce the deficit and also reduce accumulation of debt. And how do we do that? We must rearrange our budget. We have our needs and wants. But you know, at this point, this is a time when we have to ask ourselves, what can wait? What can't wait? And what can we do away with altogether?
and that is where the austerity measures come in. So I know even when we're looking at the budget, most of the departmental committees had wish lists, endless wish lists. But then we had to make a decision to make rearrangements, so that we can create what we call physical space, more leg room for us to be able to rearrange the money, take some of that money to help us pay our debt, and also allocate to other priority areas, emergent areas, like address issues to mitigate El Nino, the issue of climate change, and many others. So even if we have to borrow by rearranging, then we will end up borrowing less as opposed to borrowing more. So this rearrangement was necessary in the budget. Having said that, allow me to touch on a few areas. The sectors that are benefiting more from this rearrangement, one of them is agriculture. We know that agriculture sector has employed a number of reforms towards improving competitiveness of our exports, towards securing food security, so that in the long run we are able to bring down the cost of food and therefore the cost of living. And at the same time, we know that agricultural sector is the one that creates a lot of employment for this particular sector. So I just want to say that this sector has benefited more. We have 516 million going towards paying arrears to farmers. We have 550 million for food security diversification, among others. And also, as I approach conclusion, education sector is also one of the biggest beneficiaries. There is 1 billion to Nairobi schools. We know that Nairobi has the largest population, and some of the constituencies you will find they have 2 schools or 5 schools. So there's more money going towards supporting Nairobi schools to create more schools. We also have new funding going to the new model university funding to support education in our universities. And also there is allocations going to social protection. We will remember we registered our elderly persons, and now we have allocated 2.8 billion towards that end. And also there is more allocations, including to the Hustler Fund and many other. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to stop there. Thank you for the opportunity.
Point of order on the secondary. Let me propose the question first, surely. Because what exactly are you? I think members are anxious about this. And I must say my claim to fame is that Honorable Emase was my very able senior accountant when I was at the judiciary. And I can see she hasn't lost her touch. Honorable members, I now propose the question that this House adopts the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the first supplementary estimates for the financial year 2023 and 2024, laid on the table of this House on Wednesday, 15th November 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution and Standing Order number 243. 1. Approves an increment of the total recurrent expenditure of the financial year 2023-2024 by 90,717,383,717 in respect of the votes as contained in the first schedule. Obviously, my math is not that good. 2. Approves a decrease of the total capital expenditure of the financial year 2023-2024 by Kenya shillings 24,515,810,722 in respect of the votes as contained in the first schedule. 3. Approves an overall increase in the total budget of the financial year 2023-2024 by Kenya shillings 66,201,571,015 in respect of the votes contained in the first schedule. And 4. Approves Kenya shillings 736-121-765 spent under Article 223 of the Constitution in respect of the votes outlined in the third schedule. And 5, resolves that the first schedule forms the basis for the introduction of the supplementary appropriation bill number 3 of 2023, and 6, further makes the policy resolutions contained in the fourth schedule to the order paper. You may now have your point of order before the debate,
Yes,
or do you want the debate to start then? Maybe your point of order can mature.
I'm studying on order number 97, Madam Speaker, on the limitation of the debate. That in the view that members have so much interest to contribute on this debate, we reduce from 10 minutes to 5 minutes, so that many members can be able to get opportunity to contribute. And I be the first to be given opportunity to contribute, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Honorable members, is the House in agreement that we limit debate? Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? So the debate is limited to 5 minutes per member. Of course, with the exception of the leader of majority and leader of minority. Can we give him the privilege of going first? Since
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me thank Honorable Boroko, although he's stretching his luck, that he wants to abrogate himself the responsibility of the Speaker to allocate who starts. But he's a good man, Honorable Speaker, and I rise to support this motion, Honorable Speaker, on the supplementary estimates. The first supplementary estimates in this financial year, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as the Chair and the Vice Chair have very well articulated, this first supplementary comes in the backdrop of a very difficult time for our economy and indeed the global economy. Honorable Speaker, just to add on to the issues that the Chairman and the Vice Chair have alluded to, the global economy, Honorable Speaker, as we all know, is still in the recovery mode, post-COVID. And this recovery post-COVID, Honorable Speaker, has had huge ramifications on growing economies like ours and others developing world, and especially informed by happenings beyond the borders of our developing economies. Happenings in the Americas, Honorable Speaker, happening in the Western world, in Europe, and now, Honorable Speaker, even in the East, Honorable Speaker, in a way, hugely impacting the supply chain around the oil and the gas sector. Honorable Speaker, because we are not an oil-producing country, but an oil-consuming country, any interruptions to the supply chain of oil emanating from the war either in Ukraine and Russia, between Ukraine and Russia, or the war in the Middle East will have an impact on our local economy, Honorable Speaker. And we have seen that even with the consistent rise of oil prices, global oil prices in the world, and also in the distortion of our foreign exchange rates against the hard currencies, Honorable Speaker. And those who understand, Honorable Speaker, will know that the global oil prices also have a huge impact on our exchange rate, especially that against the dollar, because this crude oil is traded and even refined oil is traded in dollars, Honorable Speaker, and the demand for crude oil or refined oil into our economy in a way also helps to drive up the costs of the dollar against the shilling, Honorable Speaker. And why not, Honorable Speaker, as have been said, why not for the government-to-government contractual arrangements that guarantees, one, that we have adequate oil supplies in our country, Honorable Speaker, and with prices that are hedged, and therefore we are not subject to very frequent fluctuations of the oil prices in the world, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the other issues that confront us as we work on these first supplementary estimates, Honorable Speaker, you know we had challenges with the implementation of the Finance Act 2023, with all the cases that went to court, and that in a way impacted our revenue collection. Honorable Speaker, you remember the Kenya Revenue Authority have already reported that within the first quarter, they had a shortfall of about 79.3 billion on revenue turnovers from July, August, and September. I am glad, Honorable Speaker, to note that in the month of October, all the revenue streams that KRA is collecting from, be it VAT on fuel, be it excise duty, be it our income tax, all our revenue streams and our tax instruments are performing now, and at least, Honorable Speaker, I was happy to note in one of the reports by KRA that taxes, especially around fuel, are now performing above target, at almost 106% above target, and there is hope that if that progresses, Honorable Speaker, then we shall be able to catch up with the revenue estimates. It's surprising, Honorable Speaker, because there are those who have argued that our taxation on fuel has discouraged Kenyans from consuming fuel. And they will be shocked from estimates and data coming from IPRA and KRA. The consumption of fuel in this country has indeed done the opposite, surprisingly. The consumption of fuel has gone up, and that is why even revenues from the consumption of fuel, Honorable Speaker, are performing. I hear somebody behind me speaking about consumption of alcohol. I'm speaking about consumption of fuel, not alcohol. I don't care, Honorable Speaker, whether the consumption of alcohol goes up or goes down, so long as they can pay taxes. But fuel in a big way, because those who have been listening to those critics of this administration, Honorable Speaker, those are some of the things they have been saying. That even the optimal revenue tax, the tax generation curve, we have reached the optimal level of the curve that we can no longer generate more revenue from some of these taxes. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I just want to speak to those critics of this administration and tell them we are yet to get there. We indeed, VAT on fuel is the first evidence that indeed that is an area where we were yet to exploit our opportunities to broaden our tax base, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we have had other challenges, Honorable Speaker, besides those of revenue, the challenges that have been alluded to of foreign exchange fluctuations and interest rate increments, both at the domestic level and even on the international market. And as I said, Honorable Speaker, if you look at what happened in the Americas after the COVID pandemic, the American government had a lot of subsidies that they were giving to their people, which created a huge inflationary situation in their country. And therefore, to help mop up the excess liquidity in the market, they increased their Fed rates, Honorable Speaker, almost to 5.5, 5.6, almost 6%. And that, in a way, has affected our interest rates locally, Honorable Speaker. Besides what the chair of the Budget Committee alluded to, that we've also had to increase our local interest rates to be able to attract investments into our country, especially from funds that come to invest in our country, Honorable Speaker, in government securities. And with that, Honorable Speaker, that has meant that our cost of financing or cost of servicing our debt has also gone up as interest rates go up. Honorable Speaker, members will note from these supplementary estimates, close to 145 billion shillings is expenditure that is going to service our debt. Honorable Speaker, if you can protect me from these people making noise behind me, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, order. Senior counsel.
Honorable Speaker, I was saying,
proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I was saying 145 billion shillings going to service debt. And again, Honorable Speaker, those who are pontificating about how good they are in fighting for Kenyans on the cost of living are never honest enough to tell Kenyans that the huge burden of public debt that we are now having to pay an extra 145 billion shillings for was occasioned by bad macroeconomic policies under a regime that they served in and that they supported, Honorable Speaker. And we must be honest, Honorable Speaker. And I say this with all due respect to my colleagues, even those that I am engaging with in the National Dialogue Committee. Because, Honorable Speaker, I have seen them pontificate on the cost of living, demand that we must now implement policies that we as a Kenya Kwanza administration never went out to Kenyans to campaign on. Because we campaigned on the backdrop, Honorable Speaker, of workable macroeconomic policies that will ensure that this country is on a trajectory of economic recovery, anchored on sustainable macroeconomic policies, not short-term, populist, politically expedient policies of subsidizing consumption, Honorable Speaker. In these supplementary estimates, Honorable Speaker, the chair of the Energy Committee and the chair of budget will tell you we are having now to pay 4 billion shillings for subsidizing fuel, not bills incurred by this administration, but fuel subsidy bills incurred by the previous administration, Honorable Speaker. And when we told them that the policies of subsidizing consumption that they were pursuing were not helping this country, Honorable Speaker, they will not listen to us. I say this, Honorable Speaker, because I sit at a place where I have seen people now begin to use the question of the cost of living to play populist politics. I must thank the Budget and Appropriations Committee and members of this House who have stood to do what is right for the country and for posterity, rather than doing what is populist, because it's very easy, Honorable Speaker, as I said during the State of the Nation address debate, for His Excellency the President to wake up today and announce very populist policies, subsidize unga. Well, as unga now, Honorable Speaker, I was in from a friend of mine called Ouma in Umoja, sending me screenshots of a supermarket in Umoja, where they are now buying Pembe at 157, some of the most expensive brands of unga. Therefore, if those who purport to have gone to the streets on account of the cost of living, and they use the sufuria and unga as the excuse, Honorable Speaker, today, when unga was at 210, they were in the streets. Today, you want to threaten us that you can go back to the streets on account of unga at 157 for the most expensive brands. There are brands that are going for even 140 shillings. We must drop this pretense, Honorable Speaker. We must speak to the issues. I have seen others attempt to excite and incite university students on account of funding, the new funding model, Honorable Speaker. And it's unfortunate, Honorable Speaker, that even very senior leaders in this country, Honorable Speaker, speak to issues that they have absolutely no information on. They have not sought to understand what is this housing agenda, Honorable Speaker. They have not sought to understand what is this new funding model of our universities, Honorable Speaker. Today, we have 15 billion shillings here, 14 actually, Honorable Speaker, 10.3 million shillings going to the university's funding model to help to the Higher Education Loans Board. Yet you see political leaders attempting to incite our university students over help. Shame on them, Honorable Speaker. The Budget and Appropriations Committee and the National Treasury have 10.3 billion shillings to go to the Higher Education Loans Board. Shame on to them, Honorable Speaker. 3.6 billion is going to university scholarships under the new funding model. Our school capitation, Honorable Speaker, the junior secondary school, another 6.5 billion. The Kenya National Examinations Council, to ensure that our children who have sat for their exams are marked and results delivered in time, another 2.8 billion. Our TVET institutions for funding, for the new funding model, 4.6. Honorable Speaker, on account of the Kenya University and Colleges Placement Services and the funding of the new universities and colleges funding model, Honorable Speaker, you can see 14 plus 4.6 billion is close to 20 billion shillings going to fund our university and college students. That is what a responsible and responsive government does to its people, to ensure that our parents who have students in TVET, parents who have students in junior secondary, parents who have children in our universities, do not have to incur the burden of having to pay very high fees, Honorable Speaker, for their children in universities by us appropriating adequate resources to the Higher Education Loans Board to ensure that they fund and give scholarships to children from the most vulnerable of our backgrounds, Honorable Speaker. I know many of these leaders, Honorable Speaker, even very senior leaders, have had their own children attend public universities and benefit from the old funding model that never cared to know whether you are a son of a member of parliament, whether you are a son of a governor, whether you are a son of a president, whether you are a son of a former prime minister, or a son of a former vice president, or a son of a sitting deputy president, and they would fund you at the same level as a son of a hustler. The new funding model, Honorable Speaker, is paying focus to the downtrodden, the most vulnerable of our children, so that members of parliament, sons and daughters of former prime ministers and former vice presidents, those are people who can afford to pay for university fees for their children. They pay for their children, but the sons and daughters of hustlers get 100% scholarship. They get funding from HELB, Honorable Speaker. This is what this supplementary budget is doing, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we're in an era where now we are talking about COVID and El Nino rains. And this El Nino rains, Honorable Speaker, came with some unmitigated things or emergencies that were never focused, Honorable Speaker, at the time we were doing the budget at the beginning of the year. And we were never able to provide adequate resources to deal with post-harvest losses. The president did announce that we shall be, even during the State of the Nation address, that 100 mobile maize dryers and milk coolers are being procured. These resources, Honorable Speaker, you will see 2.4 billion shillings going towards the crop post-harvest to deal with the issue of maize dryers, to ensure that the harvest, the extra 18 million bags harvested by patriotic farmers across the country will not go to waste on account of the heavy rains, that we'll have mobile dryers. Farmers will be able to pay only 70 shillings down from 350 shillings to be able to dry their maize and ensure that there is unga available in the sufurias that some of my colleagues here are putting on their heads and pretending that they are leading what they call a sufuria revolution. There is no sufuria revolution. There is now a revolution to ensure that we are able to subsidize production and give Kenyans affordable food. Honorable Speaker, not just maize, even milk. There is likely to be a milk glut with the heavy rains, Honorable Speaker. Our maize farmer, our milk farmers and dairy producers are likely to produce milk. We must ensure that we have milk coolers. We're able to convert that milk to powder milk to store for any eventualities during the dry season, Honorable Speaker. And there are many other interventions, Honorable Speaker, touching on security, universal health coverage, Honorable Speaker. Although I have reservation, Honorable Speaker, I have seen reallocations where we are reallocating 200 million shillings, Honorable Speaker, to go to some primate research institute.
One minute.
Honorable Speaker, I was saying, how do we allocate 200 million shillings to research about monkeys? Because this primate research, Honorable Speaker, is not researching on universal health coverage for human beings. How do you remove 200 million shillings from universal health coverage to go and research about monkeys? I know there's a cabinet secretary who told us they would relocate monkeys from some forest to another forest, Honorable Speaker. I don't know what research is this that we want to fund with 200 million shillings. I want to propose that the committees in charge should be proposing amendments this afternoon to remove that money and take it back to more sustainable programs, Honorable Speaker. Worst case scenario, take it back to universal health coverage. How do we start taking care of monkeys at the expense of human beings, Honorable Speaker? Surely. Honorable Speaker, with that, I beg to support, and I want to call to shame those who want to use the cost of living as an excuse to incite Kenyans. We have sustainable macroeconomic policies that will deal decisively with the question of the cost of living to Kenyans. Let us not play politics with it. Let us not use the global economic challenges that we have around the world to try and incite the Kenyan people. They have a government that is responsive, a government that thinks about them, cares about them, and is dealing with their issues in a more sustainable manner other than the politically expedient avenues that we saw in the past, Honorable Speaker. With that, I beg to support.
Very well, Leader. And you have really spoken on the research on monkeys. And I know very well that even teachers outside there just says who needs to be absorbed. Maybe that's where we should take it. At the risk of contributing, let me allow the chair of budget to make an amendment, honorable members. This will actually assist us and you to discuss the entire report as one piece.